In this video, I'm going to simplify the easiest way and the best way to not only make money, but to build wealth and achieve financial freedom. I'm going to break it down simply so anyone can understand it. It's going to be based on my own experiences from what I've witnessed in hundreds and hundreds of other businesses who have succeeded. And then when we get down here, I'm going to show you how you can rapidly accelerate your wealth much faster than you ever thought possible. So let's get stuck in. All right, so this video is called The Best Way to Make Money. And before we get real in depth with this stuff, I want to break it down really simply because people overcomplicate money. They overcomplicate income and the ability to generate income. And I really just want to start by saying there is only one way to get money. We are human beings and we are the only species on earth that believe in money. We use it, right? So therefore, there's only one way to get money, and that is have another human give it to you. You get your money from another human, okay? Now, that is very, very simple. Now, what's even more simple is there's only two ways to do that, okay? There is, you have them transfer it in what we call a positive sum business where you serve them, and there is a fair exchange, okay? And there is a zero sum business where you beat them, you agree to take you agree to take part in a competitive environment where you're utilizing a skill to beat them by a competitive edge, and they pay you, okay? Now, a zero-sum business is where you beat them, right? And you use a skill and you use an edge and you have a competitive edge, and there's a winner and loser, okay? And you need knowledge, of course, to understand how to be able to do that. A positive sum is where you serve them, and this is where you get fulfillment. You only get fulfillment from helping other people. One of my first mentors and boss, George, who I've spoken about many times, he said to me, if you go through your whole life and you end up poor, it is simply because you haven't served anyone. You haven't helped people, okay? And when that really clicked, I understood the power of positive sum business and fair exchange. So this is where you're giving your love and creativity to provide a service, fair exchange, you're providing value, and there's a win-winner because you give them an outcome, they pay you fairly for it, and you charge well, and it's a fair exchange. In a zero-sum business, this is where you're trading, you're playing poker, sports, football, a trader, right? So this is where you're using your skill that you've developed to beat your opponent. Now, the mistake I see a lot of entrepreneurs make when they go into a positive sum business, it is for a zero-sum benefit. So they're trying to do a quick snatch and grab, make as much money. It's me, it's for me. And because they don't put that care of the best interest of the client into their product or outcome or service, they don't get paid what they should be paid or what they think they're going to get paid. See, when you build a product without actually asking people what they want or how you can serve them best, you're not going to get rich. You're not going to earn the money that you could earn because you're doing it for you. So you're applying a zero-sum model to a positive sum game. And that doesn't work. The market will humble you. In fact, 90% of them within 5 years have failed. They've liquidated. And then a further 90% from year 5 to year 10, 90% of the remaining businesses have folded as well. So there's a very slim chance of success in a business because of all these mistakes that people make, usually around cash flow. But the reason I share this is because a lot of people think, oh, trading's hard, investing's hard, trading's risky. Okay, trading has a high failure rate. Well, so does every business. So in my opinion, to create a great positive sum business, to get that creativity and love into the hands of the people that you're serving, you have to be doing something that you're good at and you enjoy doing and you love doing, and you also get fulfillment from helping others get that result. And you also have to charge well. And you have to charge your worth. And when you do all of that, you get this kind of little sweet spot in the middle where it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like fairness, fair exchange. Now, over on the trading side, it's just you, okay? There's no staff, there's no moving parts, but you have to master your emotions, because if you want to spend the time to reap the rewards, the higher rewards of trading, you also need a higher level of skill. You then unlock higher potentials of leverage. Then you unlock higher returns, okay? But that's all going to take time in order to gain the knowledge to learn how to do that. And really, if you're going into trading, you don't really want to be making more than or less than 25% per year, because anything less than that, it just won't feel worth it, the effort, learning, and the risk and everything to get less than that. You might as well just optimize your positive sum business. But trading is a game of the mind, okay? You have to become a master of emotion, because you oscillate between fear and greed and FOMO and leaving money on the table and hope. And you have to figure out how to be neutral and poised through those market conditions. Usually an edge in trading is developed by someone having the ability, or a zero-sum business having the ability to be faster at something or smarter at something to give them an edge, or they cheat. And I don't recommend that you guys cheat. There's a lot of insider trading and stuff like that going on. But when you cheat, it doesn't really last as long. But you have to master these emotional barriers. And what that allows you to do is become aware of yourself and aware of others. And when you can be fully aware of yourself and know yourself and monitor and witness and observe the collective mass market mind, you then have a competitive edge that you can utilize to then stay poised when everyone's panicking and make money. There's plenty of videos on this channel about how I demonstrate that in Bitcoin, for instance. So you can go and watch those after. So it begs the question, which is better? Well, first of all, both have a high failure rate, as I've just demonstrated. We know that trading is very, very difficult to master. Very, very small percentage of people actually manage to develop consistent profits. But as I've said, 90% of businesses fail within 5 years, 90% of the remaining fail within the 10-year mark. And one is guaranteed and one isn't. And you may or may not believe this, but the one that's guaranteed is financial freedom, because there is a formula to financial freedom. And if you just work on that formula, which I've covered in other videos, it's guaranteed. Whereas with a positive sum business, there's moving parts, there's you have to have an X factor, there has to be a demand, you have to get it right. And there's a little bit of a grey area here as to what will work for you and what won't work for you. So one's guaranteed and one isn't, because one is mathematics and numbers and the other one has a little bit more of an ethereal thing to it, right? Where it's just an X factor. Now, both of these will take probably a year to learn, okay? You're going to learn how to do lead generation and conversions and opt-in pages and payment gateways and marketing and product building. You're going to have to learn all that stuff. That's going to take about a year, and sales and all the rest of it, right? And then all of the admin and the internal business side of things, about a year. And it's going to take you about a year to learn how to trade. So what I recommend is you do both, okay? You start to generate income via a positive sum business, and I'm going to show you what I recommend in just a moment. I'm going to give you my own case study here, and I'm going to then give you some conservative numbers to really get you motivated. And then what you earn from here, you put into investing and financial freedom accounts, which then you use to compound and achieve freedom. So the way you go about doing that is, if you're going to do a positive sum business, make sure that you solve a problem for someone, okay? Make sure that you're truly interested in getting a person from A to Z, okay? Solve the comprehensive problem that they've got. Be outcome focused. Lots of information. There's lots of ChatGPT online now where anyone can figure that stuff, go and type in how to do something. You want to be making sure that you're not wasting anyone's time and you're dedicated to getting them the outcome. If you can get them the outcome, they will tell other people. Everyone will be ranting and raving about your product. The next step is to charge well. A lot of people can't charge well for their product because they've got some kind of self-worth issue where they don't feel worthy of charging a certain value for their product, and they give freebies to their friends and discounts to their family and friends. That's not what business is about. You must understand the value in what you're providing and then be able to charge that, which brings me to my next step. I use something called the FAIR formula, okay? Which basically means if you just focus on these 4 things, it's going to allow you to earn an unfair advantage over, say, your competition. And the first one is frequency. Figure out the number of times you can frequently serve someone. And if you can increase the frequency of service, like a subscription, an ongoing coaching thing, the more times that they have to pay you, basically, that's going to be 1+ for the scoring. The next thing is audience. The greater audience you can reach, the more people you can serve, therefore your income goes up. The income of your ideal client. So getting clear about your avatar and potentially serving people at a higher income level, because if you serve someone and you get an outcome for someone and you make a 5% difference to their life and you can quantify that, someone earning 30 grand a year will pay you 5% of their income, but so will someone earning 200 grand a year, okay, or 100 grand a year. And you can literally charge 5% of their annual income and they will pay you for it because it's relative. And people who earn well, they're much easier to sell to than people who don't. And then lastly, the quality of the result. Get a great result. If you can increase the result that you get for them, that's going to then increase your income. So F times A times I times R, frequency times audience times income times result. If you can just work on boosting those 4 things, you will be charging way more than anyone else. Now, there's going to be some challenges in building all of this stuff, and I get that. And there are some benefits to just trading, okay? Because you don't have any staff, you don't have a shop, it's low cost to start, it's 24 hours, it's a wealth skyrocket system where you can accelerate money, but you can't do that if you don't have money coming in. You can't use trading to earn money. You use trading to grow money. Okay, so you need money from somewhere to be able to trade in the first place. And then once you get into trading, there's all these hidden benefits, right? Number one is you think better. You think you're more understanding because you're thinking about how other people are thinking. Your emotion, your emotional regulation becomes more poised and more calm, and you don't get thrown around emotionally. You don't have FOMO or fear of missing out, and you start thinking in terms of long-term thinking rather than instant gratification. And you become a master of risk. So there's all these hidden benefits that you learn when you master this stuff, which is why I recommend you do both. But we start here, we generate income, and then we put it over into investments and trading. Now, let me show you a real example of this. And before I do that, I want you to understand that it all starts with knowledge, where you're learning, and then income, you generate income, and then you get equity, okay? And you start to expand your investments and expand your portfolio. And that's where the compounding takes place. But it goes in this order: 1, 2, 3. You can't start here and work back. You have to learn first. Now, let me show you something that's going to blow your mind. Okay, so back in 2018, I decided to sit down every Sunday and I wrote a newsletter called Always Free, okay? And I spent about 3 or 4 hours every Sunday writing this newsletter out, and I would send it out to an email list that I started to build up purely by on my Instagram, right? I was on Instagram and I said, hey, my email newsletter's out, go and sign up. I'd put the link, and it would basically be sharing the value that my knowledge inside my head. And over time, we built up about 5,000, within about a year, or just over a year, we had about 5,000 people on that email list, okay? And the email list was free, the email was free, I was not asking for anything in return. And then what we did is, because there were so many people getting value from the email list, and by the way, the people reading this email list were already ideal clients because I was using Instagram to go on the stories and say, hey, my newsletter's out, it's about this, 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 and this. So the only people that were subscribing to this were people that wanted to be on the email list, okay? There wasn't anyone who was just like, oh, this junk mail. In fact, I think we can count on like 2 hands the amount of people that have unsubscribed over the years since 2019. So we're getting a really great email newsletter going out to the perfect person who wants to read it. Over time, we were getting lots of questions about, look, we want to be part of a mastermind. Do you have a mastermind where we can learn about this stuff regularly or get added bonuses and things like that? So I put a little group together and we called it the Elite, and it was a little group, and we just charged £50 per month. Okay? £50 per month. Now, to my surprise, and these are my numbers, so I'm going to give you some more conservative figures in a minute, about 20% of people, when we launched this, from this newsletter, opted in for this. So instantly, we go from nothing to 50 grand a month. That's 1,000 people. 20% of 5,000. 20% is 1,000. We have 1,000 people. 1,000 people opt in for this thing at £50 a month. And at this point, I just want to say everyone has got the value of £50 per month in them. You know, if you think that you haven't, you're delusional. Everyone can serve people to the degree of £50. Literally, mine was just a live a week or something in a group where I was basically just talking through concepts of the newsletter that I'd been putting out. That was it. If you can attend one of those a week and maybe a special meeting every month online via Zoom, that is well worth £50 a month of anyone's money. Okay, then what happens over time, naturally, you get some big raving fans in this group, okay, who want more. They want more, and they keep asking you, do you do any courses or programs or mentorships and things like that? So what we do is we create another program, specially for people who want to take it further. And this time we charge £1,000, okay? £1,000, which is a very, very conservative and low cost program. There's people selling programs out there for 20,000 plus. £1,000, all right? And because of that, we get such a high conversion rate, and we get about 20% of the people, so 200 people, buy this, okay? Now that is 200 grand. So that's 200,000. Now, remember, this is a snapshot in time. So that's 200 lump sum. This is 50 grand a month. And this was called Tears of Freedom. Now, after a while, and this was building up, by the way, after a while, what we found was there were some people who didn't want to join this, but they were interested in this. And they'll just go straight from here into here. And we had about 10% when we offered that out of people who are in here wanted to go straight into this. Now that is an additional 500,000 roughly. Okay, so when you add this up, you know, we had 50k times 12, okay? So that was 600,000. Then we had the 500,000 here, and then we had the 200,000 here. So that's 1.3 million in the year. This is literally what happened. All from sitting down and spending my time writing a newsletter. Now, I just want to be really conservative because a lot of people might be saying, well, that they're ridiculous conversions. And I agree they're above average because these were mine, and we were, you know, we built this thing where we gave without expectation of anything in return, and I think that had an impact in the conversion rates here. But let's just say that instead of all of these, right, you get, let's just say you get half, 10%, right? And you get 10% here, and instead of 10% here, you get 5%. Well, then straight away, it's going to make this 25,000 per month instead of 50, okay, which over here would then be 300,000 instead of 600,000. Then this is not going to be 1,000, it's going to be 500, which is 10%. So that's going to be 500, then 10% of 500 is only going to be 50. So instead of 200 grand, this is going to be 50 grand. And then the 5% that comes straight through isn't going to be 500 grand, it's going to be 250 grand, right? 250. So our new total isn't 1.3, it's actually 600,000 per year. Now, would you be comfortable with £600,000 per year income? Chances are the answer is yes. But what I want to do is break this down because you're obviously going to pay some tax on this. And the reality is your lifestyle isn't going to cost that much. Most people would be happy with 10 grand a month, 15 grand a month, 20 at most. So let's just say a third of this goes to tax, okay? And we're left with 400,000. So we're generating income, and let's just say this is a snapshot of a year, and we can repeat this year on year, which is what I did. Now, if you can live on a portion of this and say invest 25 grand per month, 20 to 25 grand a month, okay? So 25k into investments, and instead of trading and all that, all we're going to do is a conservative 7 to 10% per year. In fact, I'm going to go for 7% just to show you the most conservative example which anyone can do. What I want to do is quickly show you this compound interest calculator to put some numbers in here. Okay, so we're going to say that we're going to put 25 grand in and we're going to get a 7% annual interest rate. Okay, on this we're going to yield 7% because anyone can do that. I'm just going to forecast forward 100 years, and every month we're going to put that 25 grand into here, okay? I'm going to hit calculate, and what you'll see on the right-hand side here is after about, let's see, when you get to about, well, let's look, right? 10 years, you've got 4.5 million. 11 years, you've got 5 million, okay? But look at this. When you get to like 42 years, 43 years, you're on the verge of cracking 100 million, right? So look at this. 45, 46 years, 100 million. Now, that is the average lifespan of someone's working life, and 100 million invested at just 5% per year will generate a £96,000 per week income for you without ever eating into that investment. Think about that. That's crazy. But just to take this a step further, because some of you are probably saying, oh yeah, you know, this all sounds great, but you know, that's not really conservative. Well, things that I haven't factored into any of this are your following, which as you continue to do this, your following will continue to grow, and usually that's exponential. The number of products in your ecosystem might change. You might have more verticals and more products and more memberships and more programs. As you get better at this stuff, your conversion rates will change and increase. The amount you charge will go up because your demand, and as you build as a person of authority, demand outweighs supply, and therefore you raise your prices. And then, of course, your yields. As you start to learn how to invest, and maybe you go to pick stocks, and maybe you learn to trade, all of a sudden, this 7 to 10% is very conservative. It starts looking more like 18, 20, 25% plus. So now you can start to see that actually 100 million in the next 40 years isn't a dream. It's actually very conservative. And it is definite if you just focus on these numbers. But this only works if you get this bit right. And all you have to do is give with a genuine desire to serve. And if you build this and you become more life force and more energy, and you give away your love and creativity, people will show up. People will find you. They will crawl in under the doors and lower themselves in through the ceiling and climb over the fences to get to you. And when they get to you, all you have to have is an organized system and a way to bill these people to get that fair exchange. And lastly on this, I just want to say the most simplest way to focus on getting 50 grand a month is 1,000 leads at a 5% opt-in rate, conversion rate, with £1,000 lifetime value. If you can just focus on that tiny little formula there, all of this becomes very, very simple and you become laser focused. So that, from start to finish, is what I would advise everyone does. You learn how to build the most efficient and effective positive sum business that gives you fulfillment and reward, and you feel like it's not work because you love doing it, and you optimize that thing so it's not resentful, and then you earn way more money than any competitor, and you put the surplus income into your investment portfolio. And I'm going to put another video right here on how I recommend you build all of that investment portfolio. So if you enjoyed this video and you're still here, you are the minority. This is your signal that you need to go and do this now, because most people watching this video would have dropped off way back. So you're here, you're special. Let me know in the comments that you're still here. And if you want to see more videos or more breakdowns like this, please let me know. Type income into the comments section and I'll consider doing more if enough of you type that in. And until next time, have a great rest of your day. Be always free, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, and don't forget to grab a copy of my book, available on all good bookstores. See you then.